really hard week. Who are you picking? I mean, it's May, right? We'll have a much better idea what these teams look like coming up in September and whatnot. But that's a really difficult matchup. Like that's a hard week to find. And I am curious what they do about Wednesday, because does Wednesday go in with Thursday? Because last year it was Thursday and Friday. It was the Thursday Thanksgiving Day, and then it was Black Friday as its own standalone week. So now does the Packers and the Rams on Wednesday, does that factor in as well? Which means the next week, which is Sunday, there's not going to be that many options after Thanksgiving. Like the strategic layout of a Circa Survivor or any Survivor pool, if you break out Thanksgiving as its own week, that's going to be tricky. Like that is not going to be easy at all to figure it out. So before we get to Adam Bjorn, let me quickly look and see if there's any major breaking news here. So let's see. We don't know CBS Sports. We don't know. We know Christmas Eve, though, is going to be Texans Eagles. That's on Christmas Eve on Amazon. So we have the Christmas Eve game, Texans at the Eagles. Not bad. Don't mind that game. We don't know who the Broncos are playing yet. They're expected to host the game, and some people are saying it's the Bills. So maybe the Chiefs aren't going to play on Thanksgiving. I'm sorry, on Christmas rather, which would be interesting. The Patriots play at the Jets, the Titans at the Raiders, and the Cowboys at host the Jaguars rather. That is your Sunday night game on the weekend following Christmas. And the Giants will play at the Lions there. Okay, on Monday, December the 28th. Let's see. Yeah, we know all that. We know so nothing else is out there at the moment. So any breaks, we'll pass it along to you guys from an NFL football perspective. Let's find out where in the world is our guy, Adam Bjorn. Oh, he is still in the sunny islands. What's up, my friend? How are you?
I'm good, yes. Heavy rain the last few days, but sun is kind of out today. But yeah, still here, at least for a few more days.
As a bookmaker, obviously, whenever we talk NFL football and scheduling, that's great. It's great news for you guys. But you've been in this for so long. Does the schedule matter to you? Do you get excited about this? Or is this just like, okay, get me to September. I don't care about May.
100%. Couldn't give two shits about this one. But yeah, I mean, the schedule's kind of broken down that you have an idea of what the baseline is, obviously the divisional games, and then that's depending where you finished last year, you sort of get a cross-pollination of what your games you're going to get matched up to this. And there's really only two or three that you can't somewhat predict where it's at. Now, obviously, you don't know the time frames, so they get certain teams at the beginning of the year, end of the year, so then winter weather and all those kind of things come into it. But when it comes to like divisions, futures and that, not really any adjustment. You know, someone will wait for these to get regular season wins up. And then putting up week one, I could care less when the traders put that up because any bet between now and August, I don't really want to write. But yeah, I mean, it's all sort of fun and games of sort of, you know, people getting on top of it and seeing what these key matchups are. But as I was just watching you then, and my idea is to pile in the Survivor contest entries this year. You know, that's the main thing I'll be looking at over the next sort of, this is a schedule, what does it look like? But even then, you know, you kind of get more into it end of August, early September.
Yeah, it is fun to kind of look ahead, but you do have to obviously get through training camp and injuries and trades. Obviously, like, you know, after June 1st, different moves will be made. The Patriots will acquire A.J. Brown and whatnot. So things will wind up changing. You mentioned you don't care when week one goes up by your traders. Do you care when the future market goes up as well?
Well, the future should already be up. And again, I don't really think this the schedule adjusts it too much. Surely maybe they take it down the night before and put it up the night after just to make sure that there's nothing untoward, whatnot. But yeah, it shouldn't really affect it. On futures, I mean, they have plenty of house juice protecting them. I don't think they really get that aggressive at this point. So you just sort of take the bets, move the line, see who's betting it. But at this stage of the year, there's not many recreational players playing it. They've got their money for other stuff. You know, I was thinking this was going to be a quiet week, completely forgot there was a golf major on. Then we've got the Preakness, still got NBA and NHL playoffs. So when it comes to an NFL schedule, that's for you guys to talk about and see where it goes. Me, I'm not looking at anything NFL this week.
All right, let's talk about the PGA. Obviously, it's a major. Jordan Spieth just made bogey, so he was 3 under. Now he's 2 under. He obviously, going into the tournament, you guys had him at 70-1 to win. He's trying to find the career Grand Slam if he were to win the PGA. But who is a bad result for you guys? Where has the master money come in for golfers to win the PGA?
Yeah, so I was kind of protecting Scheffler, but the traders hung him out to dry a little bit too much. So we got some heavy money on there from Arbors against the prediction markets and whatnot there. So he's not a good result now. Brooks Koepka's been bet off the map.
Wow.
Definitely not a good result for him. A few others, Russell Henley, Morikawa, which I thought Morikawa was actually pretty big odds. Obviously his injury and the way he's been sort of holding his back since the Masters has been a thing. Another guy like Maverick McNeely's a big loser. But, it's Thursday, and looking at the leaderboard, like, there's a bunch of big price guys up there. Maybe Xander Schauffele is the only one on the sort of front page of the odds. But, Cam Smith I saw was 20s for top Australian or something like it's very international leaderboard right now.
Any markets that you saw get played heavy, any head-to-heads, any of your props that got hammered before the tournament began?
So on the matchup side, I did go through them last night. There was a few that were really heavy one-sided. They came in for DeChambeau on a lot of his, one against Fitzpatrick. I think one against Rory they played as well. Thagala over Berger was a heavy bet one that we're going to be on the other side of. When I was looking at the top, there was a couple. Koepka against Justin Thomas was another. Again, Brooks was heavily bet. I know he's been sort of hanging around there, getting a little bit better and competing, but they come in hard and fast for him, sort of early on, straight off the bat. Rahm was another one that got bet. We sort of had him pretty well protected as well.
So you mentioned that we've got a major in golf and the Preakness. You have become very quickly the horse guy on this show, and everyone is 100%. So the chat is all coming at here. They all are curious about this. You called it for the Derby, and we got that, but unfortunately, Golden Tempo will not be part of this field. Where is your eye going? I know it's Thursday, but where is your eye going for the Preakness?
Yeah, so there was one horse that was starting to get a bit of talking about, which was Torkin. I did have a little bit on him at 20s. That I could get. And again, being in Jamaica, I have a few more books available to me in my pot while I'm down here. Yeah. But I'm really against the short prices. Taj Mahal, female trainer on the one, will get money. Again, people may be thinking a woman's Triple Crown this year after the Derby trainer winner. I think it's too short. O'Celli, great run in the Derby, never won, hard to come back after 2 weeks, very short price. Iron Honor and Chip Honcho, I had sort of on Kentucky Derby futures from back in January. Neither of them made the gate, way too short for me. So with a local book, I did take some Great White at 40-1. Doesn't exist anywhere. I don't know how they got that price because that's insane. And the other one that's surprising me or of interest is Robusta. I don't know. Well, I do know now because I did the homework, but 2 days ago I saw the price and I thought I was on him in the Kentucky Derby for a reason. And I sort of had a look at his San Felipe and a few other things. So him at 20s or 25s, I may sort of take a look at as well. But for me, really bad race, really bad field. I think, there's a lot of 6 or 7 of them that'll be on the pace, on the speed. So there's an opportunity for someone come behind. But it is a shorter race than the Derby as well. So I'm still sort of in the works, nothing jumping out to me. But Robusta at 25s, I will have a little bit. Great White, I got some crazy odds, which is, again, price sensitive me. Jumped all over that when I saw it. I don't know how they got that opinion. But Torkin is the one that I've heard bits and pieces of, and he was hanging around at 20s, which I think is a decent price if he shows up like that on Saturday. But I'll get more into it over the next day or two.
When the Derby champion is not in the Preakness, and the field is obviously a lot smaller for the Preakness, What does that do to the handicap? Is this? I know you're talking about the fact that there are some short prices, but how hard of a handicap is this race on Saturday?
I think it's a tough one. That's why I think, I'm happy to lay the 5 runners that are under 8-1 and hope that a bomb comes in. I just don't think this is a great field, and who knows who shows up. I mean, you've got the winner from the Derby skipping this, probably go to the Belmont. The best horse, what I think in the Derby was Renegade, skipping this, likely to go to the Belmont. These are the ones that surprisingly a couple of them come back from the Derby. Great White obviously flipped before getting in the gate for the Derby, so he's fresh and whatnot. But a lot of these again have they're Laurel-based runners or Maryland-based runners. And why not take a shot? This is the time to take a shot at a Triple Crown race that you can put on your resume because it's not a strong race.
Do you get involved with the Black Eyed Susan race at all? I mean, that's Chef Benny saying that it'll be a better race on Friday than there will be on Saturday. What do you make of Black Eyed Susan? Do you handicap that race at all?
I will. I have not looked at it. As I said, this week caught me by surprise with the Mate Golf Major and then obviously the transition of Prime and everything else right now. Yeah. So there's a lot on. I got these up. I'll put up some matchups in the next hour or so and then sort of let the people play. But Ocelli's was bet hard. I definitely had it above the morning line price. The morning line prices were horrible. Again, the odds maker made it to 130%, which just criminal in my mind. So when I put it up, I think I put it up around 114, 115. And just let them come and take the bets and hope for a bomb.
All right. So if you had to pick one horse for the Preakness, you're going Great White. That's the call.
Not at the odds that everybody else can get. So I'll throw out Robusta. Okay. I think that's at odds that should be around 25-1, if not more. Again, I'm on the gravy train. I can miss the next 4 or 5 and still have Golden Tempo under the hat. So that one there. And as I said, Talkin is one that's getting a bit of talking about, and 20s or more. I'll be playing that as well.
All right, Robusta. Let's take a look at 30-1, the odds I'm seeing right now on Robusta. So good price there if you want to jump on it with the Preakness. Let's talk about the NBA and the NHL quickly, and then I want to get to the news you just mentioned about what's going on here with Prime and Kentucky and whatnot. Anything that's jumping off the board to you in terms of either a game tonight as to what's going on in the NHL? There is no NBA tonight, but in the futures market, are there any situations like, is anyone coming in and taking OKC? They're 8-0 so far in the playoffs. Are you seeing anybody come back and buy into them here late in the playoffs?
I mean, in this second round series, obviously the first round series, I think we got a lot of great series. There was a number of game 7s. This one, it felt like everybody knew there were going to be some sweeps and, not too exciting series because a lot of favorites were bet. The one that's been really surprising is the Cavs and Pistons. I think there was a game 1, game 2. Yeah. We wrote NFL kind of money on that. And that's been the one that's sort of getting the interest back and forth. Looking at tonight's game, not a lot on the NHL. And then tomorrow night's game, there was an NBA game that was starting to get action again. Cleveland Cavaliers, good volume, about 78% of the money. But so far, the master money is coming on the Pistons. It's about 92% of that with decent volume. So that series has just been back and forth on the betting. We've ended up with a few good results and a couple of bad results, but that seems like the series that's bringing the best entertainment.
Yeah, I have a big ticket on the Pistons, so I want them to win game 6. So I'm hoping that the Masters are right to get that thing to a game 7 back in Detroit. Bad loss last night for them. We'll talk about that a bit later in the program. Before we get to the news of the industry with you, I do have a quick question about the World Cup and what you're expecting, because people are starting to figure it out. This thing, we're under a month away for the start for the World Cup. When do you start to see, I know people have been betting it for a while, but when does the action really heat up for the World Cup matches?
I think in a couple of weeks. I think once June ticks over, people start seeing. I mean, I've been saying it obviously for a long time. This will be a lot bigger than what people are anticipating. I kind of start to see that build up, and people start to talk about it a bit more. Even in cities that aren't hosting games, they already have an idea of where block parties are and things like that. Then there's obviously other pockets in the States where there's certain cultures live, where it's, Haitians or somewhere, or, different people in different areas, those kind of things are once in a lifetime opportunities to have this hosted. One, generally in your time zone, but in your own backyard will pick up. I still think the operators and that have no idea how much volume that they're actually going to ride on this. I still see some of the reports of, what FanDuel, expectation, DraftKings, prediction markets are going to be completely something out of this world, I think, because the one thing that the states did not get right, and I've been saying it for 3 or 4 years, is the ability to have tourists bet. In New Jersey, you need a social security number. So what are you going to do? You go either get a VPN back to your bookie back home, or now prediction markets are available. And I keep sitting there Sunday afternoons watching how much money's getting matched on these golf tournaments, and it's 20x of Betfair and what, we experienced at the peak. So, I think just needs that first few games to get going, and it's jam-packed that first, 14, 17 days. And then the US, they have the softest group in the world. Someone asked what would happen if they didn't make through the group. And I said, Soccer America, USA Soccer should just shut it down. If they cannot get past Australia, Paraguay, and Turkey, shut it down. Call it quit. Hang it up. But I expect them to go all right. They'll go deep, and it always is more entertaining when the home team really does, go deep into it, and especially the US. Yous are as fanatical as there are when it comes to patriotism and stuff like that. So, I really think people are gonna come after it, and even years to come and go, holy shit, that was way better and way bigger than what I ever expected. Now, obviously hotels and the cost of train tickets and all these kind of bad publicity things, maybe it hurts it on the ground, people, showing up, stadiums, whatnot. But we're in the gambling world and these games are on TV. And I think when, the monthly reports come out for July and August, and some of these big public companies do their, reporting for the, second Q or whatnot, people are going to be, okay, all right, this was big.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting too, because you mentioned it, the bad press about the cost of going to the World Cup and that there's hotels that are open. That doesn't mean anything for the person who's watching the game and betting on the game. So it's I feel like it might actually make it more advantageous for people to bet on it, because they're not going to be at the game. They're going to be watching it on TV, and they may be inclined to just go ahead and open up an app and make a bet. No?
100%. And also when you're in these stadiums, a lot of the time it's hard to get actually data to your phones, because a lot of them have it in place to protect the court siding. A lot of them for emergency purposes, there's people that are on the 911 network to be able to get their data in stadium and stuff like that. So if everybody's at home or at the block party or at the bars or anything like that, then, they're betting among friends and things like that. So I think that does potentially drive the gambling world of it. And again, with the prediction markets and, tourists and travelers will find a way to get their bets down home, even if they're messaging friends or whatnot. But globally, with the extra 16 teams, the extra games, been saying 104 Super Bowls in 40 days. They're not all equal, but I'm sure this will get the blood pumping as we get into it.
Do you guys have where are the limits for World Cup games? Are they NFL playoff game? Are they Super Bowl level? Where do you guys put the limits for World Cup games?
They'll be NFL playoffs, if not Super Bowls for some of them. Again, I had the advantage of being entrenched in the offshore for 2014 in Brazil. I still remember after the first week getting crushed because the results just falling badly, favorites winning, games going over, stuff like that. But each of the owners and the people that are involved in, and again, I was fresh into some of these sports books, could not believe how much people were betting and stuff. And the conversation's been, will Americans show up to bet on this stuff? Hell yeah. It just doesn't matter if it's on TV, 4 games a day, they watch the game they want, and it just goes straight into another game. And they're like, well, I'm still at the pub. It's, still there going. So why not have a bet on this? But I've seen it, I've tasted it on this time zone, and I think that's the biggest factor is when the games are within your wheelhouse and some evening games. You don't have to get up at 3 a.m. That's what sort of breeds the betting side of it. And yeah, I think this will, and the live betting, obviously that's, where the world is today. There's just so many opportunities in the live betting.
It's a perfect storm too, with the 250-year anniversary of the beginning of America. You've got the UFC card at the White House, and just a lot of USA patriotism type stuff going on this summer. So it makes a lot of sense that the U.S. gambler is going to be heavily involved coming up less than a month away for the start of the World Cup here in America. All right, you guys have had a pretty interesting week. Tell us what's going on with Kentucky. Tell us what's going on with the states, because I know you guys are looking to see that transfer from Prime for Plenitech to go ahead and take over Prime. What's the latest? I saw some tweets come out from people covering the on the ground in Kentucky, but where are we right now for what's happening with you guys?
Yeah, so pretty much at the beginning of all this, we placed two bets, two three-teamers. We had to get the market access guys aligned. We had to get the regulators aligned. The market access has been done, dusted, agreements redone. Now it's sort of time for the regulators. Kentucky had their meeting this week, approved the change of ownership pending the bankruptcy finalization. New Jersey, we're going back and forth with conversations with them, hoping to make the transition market access on June 1st. Over to that, really business continuity stays. No one really notices anything different. But it opens up some other opportunities for us down the road. And then Ohio is kind of the last leg of that parlay, and that one may drag on a little bit. But again, I've got conversations this afternoon to try and get that across the line sooner rather than later. But yeah, I really wanted to try and get this done before the World Cup so that we didn't have to be doing anything in between it. We will see within the next few days if that's possible. But slowly but surely, was kind of getting the reins of that. And nothing really changes. We're still taking bets. You're still, money's all protected and everything else. But I think once we get our hands on the keys to the bus, there'll be some other things we get to do. There's many conversations of get through this World Cup. We've been building up for this for some time. But then we've got a football season right on the back end of it. So it's just, continue rolling it on and get that going as well.
Do you anticipate keeping the Prime name, or is that something you're going to look at after you get through the World Cup?
Prime will definitely be in existence for the World Cup. And again, depending on when this thing can get closed, hoping within the next few weeks, it may be a month, depending on the Ohio transition. For me, and I've sort of said this when I've been asked, especially the last week or two, I come into this 5 or 6 years ago trying to regulate the unregulated, bring the offshore home. Obviously, Betcris brand in Arizona, because they're well represented in Mexico and LATAM, was a strategic move. I have 4 or 5 things up my sleeve that I really want to sort of achieve and roll out before I'm done and dusted with this thing, as part of that sort of 5, 6, and probably 10-year plan of seeing PASPA start to become fruition. So all I will say is there's more to come. We're not stopping at this acquisition. Like to get more states. Won't be any more this year, but definitely hoping next year we can, make this thing work and build on it and expand it. But yeah, definitely more to come.
Let me end it with this question. Today is the 8-year anniversary of the repeal of PASPA, where sports gambling was not legalized, but we pulled down the restrictions for states to be able to legalize if they chose to do so. What inning are we in for American maturity in the sports gambling world? Are we in the 3rd inning? Are we in the 7th inning? Like, how far away are we from a mature market in America?
Well, with everything that's going on, prediction markets, likely more Supreme Court cases and all these kind of things, I think it's back in the 2nd. I think, I've been saying it's still in the 1st for a long time. Let's nudge it to the 2nd right now. But there is so much to play out here. I mean, for years, it was the offshore was a gray market. Now you've kind of got the gray market in the backyard. And it's huge. I mean, the prediction markets is just picking up volume that is either fake and they're fudging the numbers, or it's picking up another demographic of people that are traders, day traders, whatnot, that are now entering the space. More opportunity for arbitrages, people becoming market makers and all these different things. So yeah, I think there's still a solid probably 5 to 8 years before I think this really truly plays out. Definitely some consolidation, but hoping there's some common sense in it as well, and they kind of build a product, a landscape, and a regulatory process that doesn't make it too expensive for smaller businesses to get involved, and understanding that they're capturing about 40 to 50% of the regulated market, and maybe it's even less if you call prediction markets unregulated as well. So still a lot more to go.
Good stuff. My friend, thank you for the time. We'll catch up next week. Enjoy the weekend, all right?
All right, cheers. Thanks, Matt.
Adam Bjorn joining us here on Pushing the Odds, as he does every Thursday from some location today, back down in Jamaica, sunny Jamaica. He said it was raining. Now it's gorgeous. But let's talk about what happened last night. And if you're a Pistons fan, yeah, what was that? I love this Pistons team, but when you're up by 9 with 2:40 to play, you can't blow that game. You can't blow that game. You can't lose that game. You just cannot lose that game if you're the Pistons. And now your backs are against the wall, and you got to try to find a way to get yourself back home for a game 7. Cavaliers, overcame a 15-point deficit in game 5. Last 4 seasons, teams that led by 15 or more at home in the playoffs this late into a series were 56-4 straight up. 5th time a team leading by 15 points in game 5, late in a series, blowing it, giving the series command to Cleveland. Now, here's the funny thing about this series. Cleveland had not won a game on the road so far in the playoffs. They just did. Cleveland has not lost a game at home here in the postseason. So if that trend holds, Cavaliers will play the Knicks. But you heard from Adam, pros are coming in on the Pistons. I will be on the Pistons coming up in the next game. I think you're going to see, Cade Cunningham was great yesterday, okay? But Cade Cunningham's failure to box out on a free throw from James Harden, look, Cleveland probably wins the game anyway. But in overtime, when you've had an incredible performance, you can't allow the offensive rebound. When you get the miss on a free throw that you're hoping for, that would have it so you could wind up getting it down. It would have been a 2-point lead for Cleveland. You have a chance to get a layup, score the game, double overtime. Maybe you win that game. You can't fail to box out James Harden on that free throw. And it was Cade Cunningham's responsibility to box out, to get that rebound and box out James Harden. It did not happen. And thus Cleveland winds up winning the game. Really hard loss, really tough moment. The Pistons, I think they can go and do it. I do. I don't think they're done for this series, but they've got their work cut out for them. And they're going to have to prove to me that they can really go out there and beat Cleveland on their home floor, because the whistles haven't been friendly in Cleveland. The shooting has been much better for the Cavs at home, and the Pistons on the road have not been great in the playoffs. So a lot to ask of them to get that W tomorrow, but hopefully that happens. Hopefully that for my futures ticket, that happens. But man, again, if you're the Knicks, you're just sitting there and you want that thing to end ASAP. You don't want to sit and cool off. You don't want that thing going to 7, even though the opponent, whoever you wind up playing, will be totally banged up, and the Knicks will be big favorites in game 1 for that reason. But you could cool off dramatically if you are the Knicks, given how long you've gone between games. Not great. How about history by the Minnesota Wild last night? They were up 3-0 after the first period against the Avalanche last night, trying to keep themselves alive. They're down 3-1. It's an elimination game. You go up 3-0 after the first period and you lose the game 4-3. Like, how does that happen? The Wild are the first team in NHL history to have a 3+ goal lead after the first period of a playoff game, and then to have fewer than 10 shots on goal the rest of the way, and then lose that game being up 3-0. Like that, the Avalanche are inevitable. Like they're just inevitable. Like I don't know who's beating them. You watch, and Cale Makar hurt his shoulder, so that's obviously a very big factor as we go forward for the Avalanche. The best defenseman, or one of the best defensemen in the NHL, has a pretty serious, looks like serious shoulder injury, maybe a dislocation, maybe some type of injury to his shoulder. He left the ice immediately. I have not seen an update on Cale Makar, so if you guys know one, drop it in the chat and let me know if there's been an update on Cale Makar. But I mean, my God. Nathan McKinnon takes pucks to the face and the guy keeps on going. Like, they're just a different animal. They're just a different beast. They're really, really good. They're really, really, really good right now with the Wild. Back to the NBA for 1 second. And the NBA yesterday had to defend this. So foul calls are up 11% in the playoffs by the NBA. One of the heads of the NBA officials was on ESPN yesterday, and he was asked about the refereeing and the calls, because this has been a very big bone of contention for several teams, that the referees are calling the game differently in the postseason than they have in the playoffs, and they have ejected guys like Victor Wembanyama. You've seen ejections be more quick in the playoffs than the regular season. Quote, it would be very difficult on our players, on our coaches, and most certainly on our referees if the intensity of a 7-game series that we see the playoffs exhibited itself over 82 games. NBA playoff basketball is one of the great spectacles of all sport, in my opinion. You get the combination of the passion and the strength of our players and coaching staffs in tight spaces over a 7-game series, and I think that absolutely makes for a different game. That's going to infuriate the Pistons. That's going to infuriate other teams that have talked about the referees calling the game differently, the Spurs at times as well, saying, wait a minute, you call the game one way in the regular season, you should call less fouls in the playoffs, not more. You should be less involved in the game, not more involved in the game. And that's been the problem for a lot of NBA fans. They're like, why is this a foul fest? Like, why are we watching whistles like crazy? And then there's a lot of contact that doesn't get called. It's, again, going right back to the inconsistencies that we have talked about for a long time with refereeing. I don't care if you call a foul or not. You just have to be consistent with the calls you're making. If you do so, if you're consistent, fine. I can argue that you should have called a foul, you didn't call a foul, but it's the inconsistency of it that really makes it difficult. How about Ohtani last night? Ohtani watch. He was ridiculous again. Shohei Ohtani, once again, completely dominant on the mound last night for the Dodgers. 7 innings, 4 hits, no earned runs, 2 walks, 8 Ks. Ohtani has now had 6 instances in his MLB career where he homered one day and then he delivered a scoreless start on the mound the next day. All other MLB players in the modern era have combined to do that one time. And that happened in 1909. There is nobody on the earth that witnessed Walter Johnson do that on August 16th and 17th in 1909. That is ridiculous. He is the best player ever. Ben Verlander, I agree. Ohtani's ERA of 0.82 through his first 7 starts. That's the lowest ERA through the first 7 starts of a season since DeGrom back in 21 when it was 0.8. He has also hit 109 home runs over the last 2 seasons. He is the greatest player to ever wear a uniform in Major League Baseball. And I really think the guy has a shot to win the Cy Young. If you didn't jump on it when I told you to at 7-1, you should have, because the number is just going to come down. People are going to start to pay more attention to what Ohtani is doing, and it's going to become a story here in Major League Baseball all summer. We have watched Ohtani for the 50-50, right? 50 home runs, 50 steals, 40 home runs, 40 steals. We've watched that with Ohtani. We've watched him with a ridiculous batting average and back-to-back MVPs. We've watched him win multiple championships now with the Dodgers. The pitching is the last step for him. I mean, this is This is the next step for him to win the Cy Young. It's on his list of things he wants to accomplish. Paul Skeens is going to say, not so fast, my friend. But as the ERA continues to drop for Ohtani and he starts getting more and more amazing starts, oh boy, hello. You heard me talk to Adam Bjorn about today being the 8-year anniversary of the repeal of PASPA. Let's jump down the rabbit hole. Let's talk about things that I would do right now if I was in charge of sports betting in America. What would I do on day one? The Rabbit Hole being brought to you by the Rabbit app, where you can download the app in the Google Play or the Apple Play Store, where you can create and share custom sports picks, challenge your friends, take that group chat into action. If a guy's running his mouth, go ahead and put your money where your mouth is. No limit. No one's getting banned. No one's getting kicked out at Rabbit. It's a social experiment. It's a social experience. It's a real person that you're going to be going up against. Excuse me. Use the Rabbit code Rabbit5 for 5 free Rabbit Cash when you sign up for a new account on Rabbit. Download the app in the Google Play or the Apple Play Store. So what would I do? I remember exactly where I was on this day 8 years ago. Supreme Court released its decision just after 10 a.m. to repeal the Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act and allowed individual states to the option of legalized sports betting. There are now 39 states in America of the 50 with legalized sports betting. What is so wild about that stat, when you stop and think about it, 39 states have some form of legalized sports betting, but Texas and California do not. The two biggest population states, New York, 3, do not have legalized sports gambling. I mean, these are states that are bigger than most countries, population-wise, in the world. And they have their own economy. I mean, if we broke out California from America and made it its own country, we're talking about a GDP that would be in the top 5 of the world. Like, it's ridiculous how many people live in California, how many people live in Texas, and neither state has legalized sports gambling. So when you talk about prediction markets as to where the handle is coming from for prediction markets, they're coming out of 3 states. It is coming out of California, Texas, and Florida. That's where all the money's coming from, because in Florida, you have Hard Rock Bet, but it's monopoly. It's only one book. So if you want to find other markets, you can't go ahead, you can't arbitrage, you can't do the things you want to do with other books. So you go to the prediction market side of things and use it. And until the Supreme Court comes down and says whether or not you can do this, in Nevada, in Massachusetts, in other tribal court cases, we are seeing Kalshi lose consistently. But as of right now, they get to operate with impunity. And the CFTC is doing nothing, and they're not going to do anything to stop Kalshi. They are defending Kalshi. They are fighting for Kalshi. I have never seen a government agency fight for a private organization harder than what we've seen the CFTC do when it comes to Kalshi. No shock, Mike Seelig, head of the CFTC. We all know about his background and his ties to prediction markets. So it makes sense. You put the right person in charge. You put the puppet there in the place of the CFTC, and he'll do whatever you tell him to do, right? So people are making money hand over fist in the prediction markets. And it's not just Kalshi. It's not just Polymarket. It's everyone who's involved in the prediction marketplace. So that's where we are. Adam said second inning. I asked my question. He thinks second inning. I think we're a little further down the road, but until we get Texas and California legalized, I don't think it really matters in terms of like the development of the overall U.S. gambling marketplace. You have to have Texas and California be legal. Like it has to happen. And if they won't legalize, if those 2 states can't come to some arrangement to legalize sports gambling, that's where a federal law probably needs to happen. The prediction marketplace conversation could very well lead to a federal bill to legalize sports gambling in America, which I am not in favor of. I don't. You started it with state by state. You have to keep going with it with state by state. Otherwise, it's going to be an absolute, romper room, which is what the PM markets currently are. But if I were in charge, what would I do? Well, here are 3 things I would do on day one. Okay. we've talked about these topics. This should not be news to anybody, but micro betting should be eliminated. I think the books are okay with letting it go. I think the gamblers are okay with letting it go. And what do I mean by micro betting? I mean betting on the first pitch of a pitcher, which is what got the Cleveland Guardian pitchers arrested. Talking about the speed of a pitch, talking about the speed of a shot, talking about what the next basket's going to be. Those micro markets that are very small and very fast. Why don't I like them? Because they are the easiest to manipulate. They are the easiest to give the bad headlines that those people who are anti-sports gambling, what they are looking for are the cases involving the Guardian pitchers, are the cases involving football players and basketball players who are getting involved. So I think rather than giving up college props, which you could do if you wanted to, I would just say, look, we're going to only allow certain things to be bet on. And we're going to sit there and go, hey, the micro markets, what someone's going to do. Like, what is Brooks Koepka going to do on his next hole? Get rid of that. Okay. We don't need that. There's not a lot of money there, but it's one player who could influence the market. And if that player has a buddy and he tells him, hey man, I'm going to bogey this hole. Okay. And he goes and bogeys the hole. No one pays attention to that, but you've got the gambling going on behind it and folks are making money on it. So I would get rid of that. Micro markets, let it go. Number two, I think you have to seriously consider limiting in-game advertisements across the country. In some states do, but I think there needs to be a federal conversation about the advertisements in-game. A kid who's watching a baseball game should not be getting inundated with 4 to 5 to 6 ads on sports gambling. Okay. We don't like it for alcohol. We don't like it for hard alcohol. Like, we put limitations on certain vices for a reason. And I want adults to do adult things. But I think the advertisements right now are targeting younger and younger people. And that's dangerous. That's troublesome. And I don't like it. And I think there needs to be, I don't care about pre and post game. Do that. I mean, go crazy. Pre-game can be all gambling. I don't care. But once the game starts and once the kids come and start watching it, because most kids aren't diehard watching pregame shows, they're watching in-game. That the in-game advertisements, there needs to be some regulation and some restriction about what we're doing in-game when these games are on television and on multitudes of platforms, to how many ads these kids are going to be subjected to when they're watching the games. Because it still should be about the game. It shouldn't be about betting. It should be about the game. And then finally, I don't think if you're an active athlete, and I'm including prediction markets here, the fact that there are multiple Bryson DeChambeau, by the way, Giannis Antetokounmpo, active players are being allowed to buy into prediction markets, that shouldn't be allowed.